Hello again. Next up, we have got Mark Hauser, the principal product designer at Xero. Over the past 6 years, Mark has been on teams that influence strategic direction, implementing and managing the rollout of new design systems, and coordinating with commercially diverse business units to ensure cohesion. Today, you'll hear Mark's insights on how UXR and design teams clarified their product strategy in a user focused way to make better decisions. Please welcome Mark to the screen.
Thanks very much. Let me just share a screen. What an amazing UX New Zealand so far. It's a real honor to be in amongst. And on this delightful Friday afternoon, it's an absolute pleasure to share a few perspectives on how to bring a vision for the future to life and have it integrated into some strategic decision making. So here's a really simple 3-step approach. Firstly, we're going to define what it is that we're even visioning. Secondly, how we might go about creating that experience vision. And finally, how to implement the vision in reality. Unlike a famous 90s iMac commercial, here we do have a step 3. It's that simple. But let's just back it up really quickly. What is an experience vision? When you create an experience vision, you try to mentally picture what the experience of using your design will be like at some point in the future. Thanks to Jared here for clarifying what that might be. So what are they actually good for? Firstly, alignment. We all love to be in control of our destinies, and that's why there's a focus on autonomous teams. If all of them are heading in different autonomous directions, what does that leave you with? A pretty disjointed experience, perhaps, at the end of the day. Secondly, Nilofer Merchant described the disconnect between that vision and mission and the day-to-day work that you do in a business context as an ear sandwich. An experience vision can connect those two aspects so that those ends of the scale come closer together and provide a more sort of tangible look at what the mission really means for day-to-day work. And thirdly, looking holistically at an experience for the future provides a perspective to tie together areas of our products which might currently be rather isolated. What does a good experience vision really feel like, though? I like to think of the gardener versus the carpenter. Initially, a framework for how to raise children. Good vision is just as much work, by the way. It sort of goes on to describe how a carpenter sort of bends the will of his materials to suit where it needs to go to sort of capture his vision. A block of wood is going to turn out to be a chair, and that's it, full stop, end of story. The gardener looks at the landscape in front of them, measuring the current state of the soil, where the sun hits throughout the day. They've got this view to what the garden will be like in the future, but tends and lets it grow in a way that suits the plants. So I know I sold you on a playbook, but I'm being classic designer and pulling the it depends card. In this case, that dependency is my limited experience, which I'm excited to share with you. From a single company perspective with 2 distinct cases, let me tell you how it went with New Zealand's trusted marketplace, Trade Me. Let's take 2 scenarios, totally hypothetical of course, but they can apply quite liberally to a situation that you yourself might find yourself in. The first one, I'm sure there's great people who are challenging you and your organization to think about what the future holds. Phil described an interesting perspective of the future yesterday morning. When we think about where that might take us, we're going to have a longer term horizon and looser focus areas, which adhere to longer term brand aspirations. So that's the lifer in this case. So that 5 to 10 year vision, their focus could be on things like, we want to look at mobile and a tailored experience and connection. Secondly, there's the annual strategy, or the term could have been improved, but they're looking sort of around that 12 to 18 months. Their focus might include something like they want to increase the range or a post-purchase experience. They want to build trust. And you're in a situation there whereby there's a number of very good options in front of you. As a designer or UX professional, how might we quantify the best way of seeing those options through a user experience lens? In this shorter term view, the focus areas are more defined and align with some more immediate brand goals. So let's set the scene. What are the kind of inputs that you're looking for? Firstly, we looked at timescales, either that really, really long-term vision or the more shorter term. We've got focus areas, the things that you'd really like to concentrate. Maybe you want to improve or bring in some journey maps. Fourthly, there's brand aspirations or, subject matter experts. Finally, there's research. Now, this is quite possibly the single most important thing. Sure, a report that you might get is a distance from our customers, as per Sarah's talk yesterday, but the incredible value of reops taking the tactical onus away from researchers means more strategic research. And the good thing about strategic research is that it's really effective for visions to be able to go off that. We're looking at things like latent user needs and desires, as well as larger trends in the market. Those are the things that will really set the scene. So for those two scenarios, what are the scene-setting trends we might want to look at? So for the lifer, they want to look at things like technology changes over that long period of time, economic trends, societal changes, what's going to happen with society as a whole. And the lifer's got a real challenge in the scene-setting area. As Bill Gates once said, we tend to overestimate the change in the coming 2 years and underestimate change in the next 10. So if we're underestimating in the long term, then the potential futures we look at in the vision could be wildly different from each other. Another way to look at it is to study the present trends and just extrapolate those outward. The annual strategy are their macroeconomic trends or response to immediate threats, opportunities to explore, and so the current trends that are happening are much more likely to continue. So it's a little bit more concrete in terms of the research needs that you'll have. Either way, research on these broad landscape patterns will set the scene for how to approach your vision. We at TradeMe, we leverage this time to go wild on ideation with subject matter experts, designers, and researchers. These are precious minutes where your team is primed with the knowledge and scope to have new ideas without the hindrance of reality. So it's really good to use it. But then it's time to get real. You'll want a narrative, including pain points and potential future issues and opportunities based on UXR. In our case, utilizing this journey map, for example, to track pre and post vision experiences and how we can improve them over time. A vision for the future is really only useful if it's useful to our customers. So we go back to our ideation and thinking about that narrative, which ideas fit the initial focus? So we're looking there like the trust question that we brought up, or how we can improve post-purchase. Which themes does this fit into? And marry the two up. We've circled here the biggest pains here in white, and the ideas which adhere most to the focus areas in yellow. The sweet spot is where they line up in our journey, and they form the basis for our vision going forward. So you may now quite possibly have too many good ideas. Which ones work together best to meet your goals? This is kind of the key to integrate this sort of design thinking methodology into any strategy process. As a discipline, being the advocate for the user and the person who's using a product will want a seamless experience. When the disparate options brought upon your teams from upon high, each and every one of them equally viable, turn up, how can you as an inquisitive professional put them into a cohesive context? In our strategy, we want to think about the options we have in the short term and put them into a group that layers up to a greater good. Aristotle said this, or was misquoted as saying this quite a while ago, but it still rings really true. When the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. When we go back to this garden, we know certain plants work really well with each other, so we nurture them together. For practicality, like basil and tomatoes work really well, delicious on toast, but also complement each other to grow prolifically. As a designer, I'd question how you can bring together disparate elements of the experience, which either have dependencies on each other or add much more value when they're together in an experience. A vision allows us to break out of the current isolated directions that our products are heading in and consider a cohesive whole. How to measure the value of combining disparate elements will, of course, depend. So I'll leave that to other frameworks to help you. We've shot through a lot of narrowing down on how to get there because a good design process will get you there. But being quick in the construction of a vision seems really important, at least in the experience that we've had. By the time we're filling the air sandwich I mentioned earlier, if we'd like to have any shot of influencing the strategy with user experience insights, time is really tight. Fortunately, TradeMe had foresight, or luck maybe, in this experience vision journey because we had a mobile design system to draw on. Thanks to the OG Jenna Ritchie, who spearheaded it, enabled us to quickly communicate the value and experience we wanted to envision. The tangibility of real product was very well understood and easily communicated, both to support and inform strategic priorities, as well as to inspire our teams. It narrowed the focus of TradeMe's marketplace strategy by highlighting the groupings of user experience needs which work best together. While an experience vision, according to the likes of Jared Spool, should be technology agnostic, i.e. storyboard the experience irrespective of how the user wants to access it, there does need to be a balance between abstraction and obvious application. It'll depend on your situation and how comfortable your teams and stakeholders are with that ambiguity. And then we're done. No. There's a long tail to any vision, because you want to make this real, right? So first up, staging to implement it. You've got to communicate that vision and update the vision, because it will never sit still, or it shouldn't. So how do you get from today to that vision? The vision pictured here is that blue line. We can't just snap our fingers and get there, nor would that be conducive to take our customers along the journey to the vision. So we'll need a little garden path to get there. This is what a roadmap could look like. A couple of releases across a handful of work streams working towards the vision. Our autonomous teams are rightly enhancing their product areas to the best of their expertise in this space. But does it make sense from a cohesive user experience perspective? So the idea here is to take cross sections of what those experiences are like in the lead up to the vision state. We can validate whether or not they're viable experiences, and if not, how might we delay some releases or reprioritize to make it a possibility? Unfortunately, my time at TradeMe came to an end before this could be properly explored, but excitingly enough, this is where we go at Xero. So I'll let you know how that goes. Communicating the vision is one of the really key pieces, and this is something that, again, Jared Spool talks about quite a bit. Make it visible. At TradeMe, for example, the vision for the future experience was plastered across the walls, around all the designers, constantly in view behind our monitors. In remote environments, reiterating and connecting the current work to where it fits in and is headed will reinforce its reason for being and tie it into the greater picture. And finally, you need to update that vision. Your garden's planted. The perfectly planned flowers are growing in harmony. Everything is going well. But there will be internal and external factors which will impact the vision. So we'll need to adjust. One of your flower beds has decided to grow a little more prolifically, or a frost inhibits growth in other areas. Just like when our autonomous teams do more research and adjust their approach, we'll need to ladder this up to the vision. What does this change mean for other work streams in play? A vision will help quantify the flow and effect of that decision. Updating the vision will make it clearer to communicate the long tail of that change to other teams, so we can continue to be on the same page. And a frost can come in market changes. Technological, societal, economic shifts will affect where your vision ends up. We need to continually prune, replant, or even dig up sections of the vision for it to remain relevant. And how did our life for an annual play out? Well, they influenced each other too. While they might have been two different business units, sharing one company meant we were able to identify overlaps and learnings from the shorter to the longer term and fold in longer term direction in the short. So updating visions based on learning in other visions levels up how we can be disconnected. They're making their way into a TradeMe near you, if you happen to be in New Zealand, and I'm excited to watch from afar as they evolve and come to life in the product. One final note is to set up your vision for success. There's been so much talk and amazing conversation about research here at UX New Zealand so far. Research availability is really key to be able to be successful in a vision context, without which you would not be able to know what it is that you're even solving for. Secondly, a design system will get you quick, tangible, visual, and easily updated vision states. As I mentioned before, around that ambiguity of whether you should go really specific and have it high fidelity or not is going to be up to your experience. But as it has shown out in TradeMe, having that really concrete example was really beneficial to show the actual impact of a strategy on our customers. So very simple, 3 steps: define, formulate, and implement. That's all it really takes. Thanks very much.